You're watching IntoWineTV. Today we're at Incanto in San Francisco and we're tasting great port. Today we're going to try the 2000 Quinta do Crasto from the Douro Valley of Portugal. And this is a 19.1% alcohol. And Edward, what do you think about this?
Well, it's an interesting wine in that it's a little bit muted on the nose and a little bit of heat coming off the nose as well. But once I get it in the mouth, it's got some beautiful underbrush tones to it. It's got some really nice ripe fig and kind of pruny notes. Nice mid-palate and nice and long on the finish. I think it's a very well-made port. They did a really nice job on this wine. It's something you could sit with for a little while and enjoy it. You wouldn't want to rush through it. And I think it's going to change in the glass, over the next probably 20 minutes to a half hour.
Now this is a late bottled vintage, and Mulan, you were talking earlier about what that meant. Can you tell us some more?
Yeah, well, late bottle vintage ports are a certain style of port. They are generally meant to be consumed upon release or shortly thereafter, versus a vintage port, which a consumer would buy, let's say, and then cellar, depending on the vintage, for 10, 20, 30 years plus. The aging for a late bottle vintage is a little longer than a vintage port or other types of port, a ruby port, for instance. I think it's 4 to 6 years. Some are bottled filtered, some are bottled unfiltered. I find that the unfiltered ports, LBVs, tend to have a little more complexity, a little more stuffing, really nice intensity. And I believe this is unfiltered. Yeah, this is glorious. I think it's wonderful. It's definitely, I think it perhaps is a little muted right now and it is going to open up. It's intense. It's a bit of a muscle ball right now. But there's a lot going on underneath, and I think we just need to give it some time to kind of surface. I get this really interesting, along with all those deep, rich fruits, I get kind of a minerality to it as well, kind of a smokiness, and I'm not sure where that's coming from. It's old vines, minerals in the soil, the Douro Valley, perhaps a bit of the wood, although I know they're larger vessels generally. I'm not sure, but it's very interesting nonetheless. And I would love to see how this wine evolves in the glass over the next hour. No, we don't have that much time, but I think it's great. I would not have this with dessert. I would have this, I think it's delicious on its own, or with cheese. I think this would be a nice,
very good call.
A nice wine to have with cheese.
I think this wine is almost a vintage port character in a lot of ways. There's a little bit of VA on the nose, which can be a fault, but I don't think it is here. It brings the aromatics out, and I would decant it. To get that to blow off just slightly and make the more expressive nose, and also being unfiltered, there's probably some sediment in there. I think an hour or two in a decanter and then serve it at the end of the meal with cheese would be great. I was going to say, when you said minerals, I get a nice charcoal element to it, which in addition to the figs and maybe some plums, maybe some prunes, it's delicious.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think it has some life ahead of it in the bottle as well. I mean, the tannins, first of all, it's long on the finish, but the tannins are really persistent, and you can really feel them against your gum and your teeth, even within a few minutes after taking a sip. So it's got some evolution ahead of it, I think.
I think this will age wonderfully for 10, 15 years. Maybe not vintage port-like years, but this will do really well in the cellar for a while.
Right, well, whether you open it now or open it later, the 2000 Quinta do Crasto late bottle vintage seems to be a great port here at $24.95. Again, it's from the Douro Valley, and hope you'll pick one of these up, give it a try. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.